Denny Hamlin on his podcast earlier this week went on a rampage calling out not only Chase Elliott, but Chase Elliott fans as well. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, your daily destination for the latest NASCAR news, race recaps, and lately, drama. Before we can break down Denny Hamlin's comments, this episode is sponsored by Across the Board. Specifically, their officially licensed NASCAR games. Across the Board's high-quality, durable games are made right here in the United States. They're actually based in St. Louis, not far from where the NASCAR Cup Series will be racing this weekend. Their NASCAR racing game is easy to learn, it's fun to play whether you have a smaller group or a large group you're trying to entertain at a party, or maybe at a tailgate at an upcoming race. It's the perfect game for the NASCAR fan in your life, especially with Father's Day right around the corner. Click the link down in the description below to check out this game as well as Across the Board's other great products. And in honor of Father's Day, be sure to use code POPS, P-O-P-S, for free shipping. If you order real soon, it should be shipped and delivered in time for Father's Day. Thank you to Across the Board for sponsoring this episode. Again, click that link down below, check them out for yourself, use code POPS for free shipping. All week long, I've wanted to dissect and discuss Denny Hamlin's recent comments he made on the latest episode of Actions Detrimental. But between the Chase Elliott suspension coming in hot Tuesday, and then yesterday the Chase Briscoe penalty news falling in from the sky, I haven't had the chance. But today, I know we're a day or two late, we're finally going to break down Denny Hamlin's comments, not only about Chase Elliott, he also had some strong words for his own driver, Bubba Wallace. We'll get to that in just a moment. I do want to start, though, with some interesting news out of Racer.com. Kelly Crandall reporting yesterday. Trevor Bayne was her most recent guest on her podcast, the Racing Writers Podcast, and she broke down some of Bayne's interesting comments in this Racer.com article. The 2011 Daytona 500 winner has not raced full-time in NASCAR in at least a few years. I'd say since 2017 or 2018. I guess 2017 technically was his final full-time Cup Series season, but last year, Trevor Bayne did make 9 Xfinity starts for Joe Gibbs Racing, and while he didn't win a race, he was pretty consistent, finishing in the top 10 7 times. According to Trevor Bayne himself in this piece, he was working on a full-time Xfinity Series gig with Joe Gibbs Racing, and even turned down a full-time Truck Series opportunity, believing the Gibbs deal was going to work. But Trevor Bayne told Kelly Crandall this week, quote, "And then that didn't happen. Last minute, the sponsor backed out that they had. Actually, I think might have got catfished. I'm not sure. But yeah, the sponsor just wasn't legit, that had called and inquired, and so that was late in the off-season. So with that, we haven't announced it yet, and I think at some point Gibbs will, but I will be back in the car for at least a race this year, maybe a couple. We're working on that." A lot of Trevor Bayne fans out there. That's really interesting. I remember thinking this offseason, boy, Joe Gibbs Racing is taking a long time to pick their Xfinity Series lineup. We all kind of assumed John Hunter Nemechek would get a car. We looked at Sammy Smith and potentially the funding he brings, the potential there, and said, hey, that's a solid pick. But with Chandler Smith leaving for Colleague, we knew there were some questions. It sounds like they were working potentially on a deal with Trevor Bayne, and then due to sponsorship, it fell apart. That does stink. I hate that for Trevor Bayne. Unfortunately, if you're not a super young, highly touted prospect or an established otherworldly talent, NASCAR opportunities often come down to funding. Can you scrounge together sponsorship? Can you convince a company or maybe a wealthy relative to invest in you? It simply comes down to money. And if you want to race for Joe Gibbs Racing, even in Xfinity, you need to fork over a lot of cash or find someone else who will. It's the harsh truth, it's the unfortunate reality, but I am rooting for Trevor Bayne. Just thought that comment, those quotes yesterday were very interesting to read. Figured I'd share. I'll put a link to the full Racer.com piece down in the description below. I'll also put the link to the latest episode of Denny Hamlin's Actions Detrimental podcast down in the description, because if you haven't already heard it, I encourage you to go listen to the full episode, or at least the Chase Elliott segment, which begins around the 30-minute mark. I'm going to do my best here to paraphrase certain things, but if you want the full context, be sure to listen to that episode. Real quick, Denny Hamlin had some interesting comments about his driver, Bubba Wallace, who, if you watched the race Monday afternoon, you saw that during the red flag, Eric Almirola came over and shoved Bubba on pit road. Whoa, what was that about? Almirola said he didn't like how Bubba raced him. Then he said that Bubba flipped him the middle finger out the window and then cursed at him when, Almirola confronted him on pit road. That's what led to the shove. Denny Hamlin co-owns Bubba Wallace's car and had some pretty strong words to say to his driver.
I don't love it at all. Just keep your hands in your car. Just stop it. Just stop it. Just cause them. You've got some positive momentum on the racetrack. Let's just chill for a little while.
I very much agree with Denny Hamlin's way of thinking right there. Bubba Wallace is on pace to have his best Cup Series season ever. He's trending towards qualifying for the playoffs for the first time ever. He's finished top 5 in 4 straight races, including the All-Star race. So if you're Bubba Wallace, if you're Denny Hamlin, the last thing you want right now is for some silly on-track controversy or off-track altercation to distract you or to derail your otherwise fantastic start to the season. Hamlin also had just some strong comments about using the middle finger in races these days, which is interesting because we saw on TV JJ Yaley, who was having a good run Monday, flip someone off as well. So it still seems pretty common, but Denny Hamlin, grizzled veteran Denny Hamlin, doesn't seem to be a big fan.
It's out of style. Everyone needs, whoever still does it needs to stop because it's out of style. Stop doing it. It's childish.
Hey, again, I agree. I called it childish last week when Bubba Wallace flipped off his buddy off camera while he was on TV. That's dumb, that's immature, that's silly. I agree. But once again, I do want to mention that the incident with Eric Almirola happened before halfway. Bubba Wallace rallied in the second half to finish inside the top 5. He clearly didn't let that issue distract him on Monday or derail him, which, I don't know, I think that displays some level of mental toughness that we don't often see from Bubba Wallace, at least not consistently. I agree with Denny, you don't want unnecessary distractions when you're in the middle of a great season, but at the same time, I gotta give Bubba some credit. He didn't let that issue distract him on Monday. He still went out and got a great result. I'm not going to get into everything Denny Hamlin said about Chase Elliott earlier this week, since the episode did come out before NASCAR had officially suspended Elliott. What jumped out at me was Denny Hamlin directly addressing and criticizing Chase Elliott fans.
I don't mind Chase Elliott fans. Some of them are sane. Most of them are not. These fans, golly, they drive me crazy sometimes because they're so two-faced. And I look at, how can you be a fan and be that twisted to, not recognize when your driver up?
Look, Denny Hamlin was wronged in this case. He made a mistake and squeezed Chase Elliott into the wall. Chase Elliott has a right to be mad, but Chase Elliott choosing to retaliate by right-rearing Hamlin into the wall head-on at one of NASCAR's fastest tracks is wrong. Denny Hamlin was wronged. The arguments he made as to why Chase Elliott should be suspended, I think, were great arguments. He referenced the SMT data. I agreed. Chase Elliott needed to be disciplined. But anytime a driver takes on another driver's fan base, it's just not gonna work. Not to be an armchair psychologist or anything, but I think it's safe to say Denny Hamlin doesn't like getting booed on Sundays. Comments like these, saying, oh, Chase Elliott fans, most of them aren't sane. They're twisted. They're two-faced. Guess what, Denny? Those boos just got twice as loud. Maybe you're going to win over some other drivers' fans who also don't like Chase Elliott fans, so maybe you'll win a few of them over, but I think this is a net loss. I think it's a net loss pretty much anytime you take on another driver's fan base, particularly when that fan base is as large and as passionate as Chase Elliott's. And I want to address that. Denny Hamlin isn't wrong. I did see some Chase Elliott fans using incomprehensible logic to try and defend their driver. But Denny Hamlin needs to realize that's what fans are supposed to do. Fans are supposed to be passionate, a little irrational sometimes. You're supposed to support your driver, your guy, your team. Come hell or high water. A fan is short for fanatic. Fans are allowed to be a little crazy. I'm all about transparency. I want the fan base to know what's going on. Like when Denny Hamlin tweeted out that SMT data, that's awesome. I feel like 90% of my job here on this show is making sure fans know the bigger picture. I'm not trying to necessarily sway your opinion. I just want you to consider everything when forming your own. One argument, though, that Denny Hamlin did address head on, I actually think was fair. Some fans compared what Chase Elliott did to Denny Hamlin to what Denny Hamlin did to Ross Chastain at Phoenix a few months ago. And Denny Hamlin shut that down real fast, and I think he's right.
Well, you fenced Chastain. Yeah, I rubbed him against the wall. Didn't involve anybody else. Didn't even take him out. Didn't cause not a bit of damage to his car. Right rear hooking someone at 180 at Charlotte in the dog leg is not the same.
Denny is 100% correct here. Look, technically, under the rule book, you could argue that both what Hamlin did at Phoenix and what Elliott did at Charlotte are both illegal and both justify some sort of penalty. Denny Hamlin was penalized for what happened at Phoenix. A lot of it was because he admitted it afterwards, but still, he got a 25-point penalty for that incident. But Chase Elliott, what he did, especially the result, was worse. I mean, I hope we can agree on that objectively. As a result, I think the penalty needed to be worse, and it was. So once again, my opinion hasn't really changed this week. I like Chase Elliott a lot. Super talented, obviously, and more often than not, seems to keep a level head. But in this instance, he lost sight of the bigger picture, got angry, made a snap decision that should come with severe consequences. And it did. He's been suspended a race. I think NASCAR got the call right. Those are just some of Denny Hamlin's comments that jumped out at me. I could sit here for 2 hours probably and break down the whole episode, or at least the whole Chase Elliott segment. But again, I encourage you to go listen to the full episode, get the full context of everything Denny Hamlin was thinking after Charlotte this weekend. But that is going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. If you're new to the channel and you love keeping up to date on all things NASCAR, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And thank you as always to my Patreon supporters for your very generous support. It's been a busy week. It's been a short week. I've had lots of videos to cram into, not a lot of time. If you missed it yesterday, I did a video from Rockingham Speedway. If you're into history, if you want to talk about the present and where Rockingham may be going, be sure to check that video out. I will see you again very, very soon, y'all. Thanks for watching. Take care.